First contact and defiance. The UVS Intrepid hung against the backdrop of stars, its sleek hull gleaming under the light of a distant sun. Earth's most advanced vessel, and the first to venture beyond the Sol system, represented humanity's greatest achievement, a testament to determination and ingenuity. Captain Alina Reyes stood on the bridge, dark eyes scanning the redouts as her crew worked around her with practiced efficiency. "Captain, we're detecting an anomaly at the edge of the system," Lieutenant Commander Amir Khan reported from the science station. His fingers danced across the holographic interface, pulling up enhanced sensor readings. "It appears to be some kind of spatial distortion." Elena straightened her uniform. 6 months into their exploration mission, they had yet to encounter other intelligent life. On screen, maximum magnification. The main view screen shifted to show what appeared to be a ripple in space. As they watched, the distortion expanded, forming a swirling vortex of blue-green energy. "Some kind of artificial wormhole," Khan muttered, his voice tinged with awe. Before Elena could respond, the vortex stabilized, and a massive vessel emerged. It dwarfed the Intrepid, its hull covered in what appeared to be weapon emplacements. Strange, angular script adorned its sides, glowing with an eerie purple light. "Combat alert," Elena ordered, her voice calm despite the sudden tension that gripped the bridge. "Shields up. I want targeting solutions, but do not power weapons yet." Chief Tactical Officer Maya Chen nodded, her hands hovering over her station. "Shields at maximum. Targeting systems online but dormant." "Captain, we're being scanned," Khan reported. "Their technology is. It's beyond anything in our database. They're opening a channel," Communications Officer Dante Rodriguez announced. "Audio and visual." Elena took a deep breath. First contact. This was what they had trained for, but not like this. Not with a warship that could obliterate them with a single volley. "Open the channel." The screen flickered, revealing a being that caused several crew members to inhale sharply. It resembled a humanoid reptile with iridescent scales covering its face. 4 amber eyes blinked independently, focusing on Elena. When it spoke, its mouth revealed rows of needle-like teeth. "I am High Commander Vrax of the Zethkar Imperium," the alien said, its voice translated through the ship's computers. "Your vessel has entered territory claimed by the Eternal Throne. Identify yourself and prepare to be boarded for inspection." Elena stepped forward, keeping her posture straight and confident. "I am Captain Alina Reyes of the United Earth ship Intrepid. We are explorers from Earth on a peaceful mission of discovery. We were unaware this region was claimed by your people." The alien's eyes narrowed. "There is no unclaimed space within the reach of the Imperium. Your ignorance does not excuse trespass." Vrax leaned closer to whatever recording device they were using. "Your vessel's design is unknown to us. You will submit to boarding and technical assessment. Resistance will be met with immediate destruction." Elena felt a chill run down her spine. There was something in Vrax's tone, a casual disregard for the Intrepid and its crew that suggested this wasn't an unusual encounter for the Imperium. "With respect, High Commander, our protocols forbid allowing unknown parties to board our vessel without diplomatic arrangements. I propose instead—" "You misunderstand, Captain," Vrax interrupted. "This is not a negotiation. The Zethkar do not negotiate with lesser species. You have 2 of your minutes to power down your shields and prepare for boarding." The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in silence. "Lesser species," Rodriguez muttered. "That's not promising." Elena turned to her first officer, Commander James Chen. "Options. Their weapons technology appears significantly advanced," Chen replied, studying the tactical display. "But their ship's mass suggests they rely heavily on kinetic weapons and directed energy. Our quantum shields might buy us time, but in a straight fight—" He shook his head. "We're picking up communications traffic," Rodriguez reported suddenly. "They're speaking to other vessels, a lot of them." "Translating now." His expression darkened. "Captain, they're discussing how to dismantle our ship. There are references to to harvesting the crew for neurological study. Alina's jaw tightened. Khan, what's the status of our experimental drive? Khan looked up, understanding immediately. The phase shift drive is charged, but it's never been tested under combat conditions. The calculations required. Start calculating, Alina ordered. Maya, I need a distraction. Target their sensor arrays, minimal yield. Helm, plot a course away from their vessel, maximum conventional thrust. Her crew moved with purpose, the fear in the air replaced by determined focus. 30 seconds until they expect our surrender, Chen noted, watching the countdown on his display. Alina nodded. On my mark, fire a warning shot across their bow, then hit their sensors. Helm, execute evasive pattern delta. Khan, the moment their sensors are compromised, initiate phase shift. The seconds ticked down. Alina watched the massive Imperial vessel on the screen, wondering how many other civilizations had faced this moment, had been deemed lesser species, and subjected to the Imperium's idea of dominance. Mark, she said quietly. The Intrepid fired a precision beam that flashed just meters from the Imperial vessel's command section. Before the Zethkar could respond, a second burst struck their primary sensor array, temporarily blinding them. Now, Alina ordered as the Intrepid surged forward, engines at maximum thrust. The phase shift drive engaged with a sound like reality itself being torn apart. For a moment, the Intrepid existed in two places simultaneously, in normal space and somewhere else entirely. Then, with a flash of blue-white light, they vanished from the system. When they re-emerged, they were in an uncharted region of space, dozens of light years from their previous position. Status report, Alina demanded, steadying herself against her chair as the ship's systems stabilized. Phase shift successful, Khan reported, unable to hide the note of triumph in his voice. However, the drive is offline for the next 12 hours. We overtaxed the containment field. Minor hull stress, but integrity is holding, Maya added. Weapons and shields at 92% efficiency. Did they track us? Alina asked. Khan shook his head. The phase shift should have been untraceable. But he hesitated. Captain, during our brief interaction, I managed to copy a significant portion of their unencrypted data transmissions. I think you need to see this. The main screen filled with images that made Alina's blood run cold. World after world under Zethkar control. Some burning, others covered in massive mining operations. Species of all descriptions working under armed guards, living in conditions that could only be described as slavery. Military reports detailing pacification of populations that had resisted. There are at least 200 worlds under their control, Khan said quietly. Some species appear to have been completely exterminated when they refused to submit. How soon could they reach Earth? Alina asked, the question hanging heavy in the air. Khan consulted his readings, based on their propulsion technology. 5 years. Maybe less if they have faster ships than what we encountered. Alina stared at the screen, at the evidence of an empire built on conquest and subjugation. She thought of Earth, of its 7 billion inhabitants who had no idea of the threat lurking among the stars. We need to get this information home, Commander Chen said. A warning isn't enough, Alina replied, her voice hardening as she made her decision. Earth would have no chance against an established empire like this. Not without more intelligence, their weaknesses, their technology, their military strategies. What are you suggesting? Maya asked. Alina turned to face her crew. The Intrepid was built to explore, but now we have a new mission. We're going to gather intelligence on the Zethkar Imperium. We're going to find allies among those they've conquered. And we're going to find a way to stop them before they ever reach Earth. Captain, Rodriguez called out, I'm detecting encrypted transmissions on unusual frequencies. They don't match Zethkar patterns. They're coming from a nearby star system. Alina smiled grimly. It seems we might not be the only ones who oppose the Imperium. Set course for the source of those transmissions. Maximum stealth mode. As the Intrepid glided silently toward the distant star, none of the crew could have imagined how their actions, the defiance of a single human ship, would soon shake the foundations of an empire that had stood unchallenged for centuries. Revolution and victory. The Intrepid hung in the shadow of a massive gas giant, its stealth systems rendering it nearly invisible to conventional sensors. 6 months had passed since their encounter with the Zethkar Imperium. Months spent gathering intelligence, making allies, and narrowly avoiding capture by Imperial patrols. Captain Elena Reyes studied the holographic display in the ship's conference room. Around her stood not only her senior officers but representatives from 7 different species, all victims of Zethkar expansion, all now part of what they called the Shadow Alliance. "The latest intelligence confirms our theory," said Lyrax, a tall, willowy being with pale blue skin and 4 arms. Once the chief scientist of the Xalari Republic before the Zethkar reduced their civilization to rubble. The Imperium's quantum communication network relies on these 13 relay stations. The hologram highlighted points across Zethkar territory. Disrupt them simultaneously, and their empire becomes fragmented, unable to coordinate their forces. Their ships are powerful, but they're dependent on central command, added Commander Chen. That's why they've never developed autonomous tactical systems. The Imperial hierarchy doesn't trust its commanders with too much initiative. Elena nodded. What had started as a desperate mission to gather intelligence had evolved into something much more significant. The Intrepid had become the catalyst for a revolution, bringing together scattered resistance groups and sharing Earth technology that, while less advanced in many ways than Zethkar systems, operated on principles the Imperium had never encountered. "The real target remains the Nexus," Elena said, focusing the hologram on a massive space station orbiting a red dwarf star, their central command hub. If we can capture it intact, we gain control of their entire communication network. My people will provide the diversion at relay stations 3, 7, and 12, rumbled Kavar, a massive reptilian being whose people had been among the first conquered by the Zethkar. The Imperial forces will be drawn to defend these critical points. And my scouts will ensure safe passage for your ship to approach the Nexus, added Tella, a small humanoid with glowing patterns shifting across her skin. The old mining tunnels through the asteroid belt are narrow, but your helmsman has proven quite skilled. Lieutenant Risha Patel, the Intrepid's navigation officer, smiled at the compliment. The maneuvers she performed during their months of guerrilla operations against the Imperium had earned her near-legendary status among their allies. "What about the bounty?" asked Maya. "Every Imperial vessel and mercenary in 3 sectors is looking for us." The bounty on the Intrepid had reached astronomical levels. The ship that had evaded capture, gathered allies, and struck at Imperial outposts had been labeled the Imperium's most wanted target. Images of its distinctive hull design were displayed in every port under Zethkar control. "Let them look," Elena replied. "It means they're afraid. And they should be." The meeting concluded with final preparations for what they were calling Operation Shattered Throne. As their allies departed via secure shuttles, Elena remained in the conference room with her senior staff. "We've come a long way from being explorers," Khan said quietly. Elena nodded, "Not by choice. But I don't regret our decision." "Earth still doesn't know," Rodriguez pointed out. "The quantum communication bursts we've sent might never have reached them." "Then we make sure we succeed," Elena said firmly, "so we can tell them in person." 3 days later, the Intrepid slipped through the ancient mining tunnels that crisscrossed the asteroid belt surrounding the Nexus. Lieutenant Patil guided the ship with preternatural precision, avoiding sensor sweeps and patrols. Alliance forces report successful engagement at relay stations, Rodriguez announced. Imperial vessels are being diverted from the Nexus, just as planned. Elena nodded from her command chair. Status of the prototype. "The adaptive shield technology is online," Khan reported. "Based on the Solari designs, it should mimic Zethkar energy signatures long enough for us to approach the main docking bay." It was a desperate plan. Using modified Zethkar identification codes provided by resistance spies, they would approach the Nexus disguised as an Imperial vessel. Once inside, a combined team of human crew members and Alliance fighters would seize control of the station's command center. "Nexus in visual range," announced Patel. The massive station appeared on the view screen, a sprawling construct of metal and energy fields, with ships of various sizes docked along its perimeter. At its center, a pulsating core of purple-white light housed the quantum communication technology that bound the Empire together. "Transmitting false identification now," Rodriguez said. "They're responding. We're cleared for approach to Auxiliary Docking Bay 7. Elena exchanged glances with Commander Chen. This was the moment of greatest risk. If their disguise failed, they would be destroyed before they could even defend themselves. "Proceed," she ordered. The Intrepid glided toward the designated docking port, its modified shields projecting the energy signature of a Zethkar patrol vessel. As they approached, Elena could see Imperial troops moving about the docking bay, unaware of what was about to happen. "Boarding teams ready," Chen reported. "Alliance fighters are in position throughout the sector, awaiting the signal." The ship settled into the docking clamps with a gentle shudder. For a moment, all was quiet. "They're scanning us more thoroughly," Khan warned. "The disguise won't hold much longer." Elena stood. "Then we don't wait. All teams, execute now." Throughout the sector, Alliance ships emerged from hiding, striking at Imperial vessels caught unprepared. On the Nexus itself, resistance fighters who had infiltrated as workers and slaves rose up against their oppressors. The Intrepid's boarding teams, led by Commander Chen and Maya, surged into the station, their weapons firing with precision. They had the advantage of surprise, but the Zethkar recovered quickly, their superior numbers threatening to overwhelm the attackers. On the bridge, Elena coordinated the assault, redirecting teams as needed, identifying vulnerabilities in the station's defenses. "Captain," Khan called out suddenly, "I've identified the central processor for their quantum network. If we can upload the virus we developed with Exalari, we can take control of their entire communication system." "Location," Elena demanded. "Level 12, Section 47. But security is heaviest there. No team can reach it." Elena made her decision in an instant. "Transfer command to Commander Chen. Tactical team with me. Rodriguez, Khan, you're with us too." Together, they fought their way through the station's corridors, facing increasingly desperate resistance. The Zethkar, for all their technological superiority, had never faced an enemy that combined the tactics and technologies of multiple species. They were unprepared for the adaptability of the human-led assault. "The processor chamber is ahead," Khan reported as they took cover behind a barricade. 20 meters, heavy security protocols. "Can you bypass them?" Elena asked, returning fire as a squad of Imperial guards attempted to flank their position. "Not remotely," Khan replied. "Someone needs to reach the main terminal." Maya pointed to a maintenance shaft above them. "That should lead directly to the processor chamber, but it's narrow. Only one person could make it." Elena looked at the shaft, then at the data crystal containing the virus. "Cover me," she ordered, taking the crystal from Khan. Before any of them could object, she was climbing into the shaft, crawling through the cramped space as the sounds of battle echoed below. The shaft ended at a grate overlooking the processor chamber, a vast room dominated by a column of pulsating energy contained within crystalline walls. 3 Zethkar technicians worked at terminals surrounding the central processor. Elena observed them briefly, noting their movements and the location of the main control interface. Then she kicked out the grate and dropped into the chamber, her weapon drawn. The technicians barely had time to register her presence before she incapacitated them with precise shots. Moving quickly to the main terminal, she inserted the crystal and initiated the upload. The interface flashed with warnings as the virus infiltrated the system. Elena overrode security protocols using the codes they had gathered from their allies, watching as the progress bar slowly advanced. The chamber's doors suddenly exploded inward. High Commander Vrax himself strode in, flanked by elite guards, his amber eyes fixed on Alina with cold fury. "The human captain," he hissed. "You have been a persistent irritant." "More than an irritant," Alina replied, continuing to work at the terminal. "I'm the beginning of your end." Vrax raised a weapon. "Your species' arrogance is remarkable. Did you truly believe a single ship could challenge the might of an empire that has stood for millennia?" Alina smiled as the terminal signaled the upload's completion. "We didn't challenge it alone. We did what you never expected. We united those you oppressed." The lights in the chamber flickered. Throughout the Nexus, systems began to shift as the virus took control. On every Imperial vessel and outpost connected to the network, commanders suddenly found themselves locked out of their own systems. "What have you done?" Vrax demanded, his composure fracturing. "Turned your greatest strength into your greatest weakness," Alina answered. "Your centralized control is now ours." The terminal displayed a message, "Transmission ready." Alina pressed her palm against the interface. "This is Captain Alina Reyes of the United Earth ship Intrepid. To all people suffering under Zethkar oppression, today, we take back our freedom. The Imperium's control is broken. Rise up. The Alliance stands with you." The message transmitted across the entire Zethkar network, reaching every world, every outpost, every ship in Imperial space, and everywhere, those who had lived under the Imperium's boot heard her words. Vrax lunged forward, but a burst of weapons fire from the doorway caught him mid-motion. Maya and the tactical team had fought their way to the chamber, arriving just in time. "Station security is compromised," Maya reported. "Alliance forces are taking control of all critical systems." Throughout the sector, reports began flooding in of Imperial vessels surrendering, of garrisons being overwhelmed by formerly subjugated populations. The carefully constructed hierarchy of the Zethkar Imperium, deprived of its communication network and facing coordinated resistance for the first time, began to crumble. 3 weeks later, Alina stood on the observation deck of the Nexus, now the headquarters of the newborn Stellar Alliance. Representatives from dozens of formerly oppressed worlds had gathered to discuss the future, a future without Imperial dominance. Commander Chen approached, offering her a datapad. "The latest reports from the outer systems. 87% of Imperial forces have either surrendered or been neutralized. The remaining loyalists are retreating to their homeworld." "And the fleet heading toward Earth?" Alina asked. "Intercepted and disabled by Alliance forces," Chen confirmed. "Earth is safe, and they finally received our transmissions. The UES Defender is en route to rendezvous with us. Apparently, they're quite interested in meeting our allies." Alina smiled, watching the ships of various designs moving around the station. Vessels that had once hidden from Imperial patrols, now flying openly alongside each other. Lyrax joined them, her 4 arms folded in a gesture of respect. "The Council has reached a decision. We wish to send representatives to Earth, to establish formal diplomatic relations." "Earth would be honored," Alina replied. "All of this," Lyrax said, gesturing to the assembled fleet, "because one ship refused to surrender. There is a saying among my people, sometimes the smallest stone causes the greatest avalanche." Alina looked out at the stars, at a galaxy that had changed irrevocably because of the choices made by a single crew from a planet that had only just begun reaching for those stars. "We came looking for new horizons," she said quietly. "Instead, we found a purpose." Behind them, the representatives of the Stellar Alliance continued their deliberations, laying the foundation for a new order based not on domination, but cooperation. And at the center of it all stood the Intrepid, the single human ship that had brought an empire to its knees.